Hare Krishna, Jai Jagannath. So, हम जो series discussion start करते हैं regarding the OPSC exam, OS Odisha Civil Service exam Prelims GS paper 1 discussion. तो हम already 18 part रे question 90 question discuss कर सारछु. This is the part 19. So each part रे हम 5 लेखा question रो detailed analysis करूछु. So correct option find करिया सहित हम यहाँ जो options अछि ता विषय रे हम proper like information provide करछु. Okay. So let's start with the part 19 from question number 91 to 95. Question number 91. Which of the following is not a financial inclusion scheme? So say this question there. के भितर को scheme टा financial inclusion पे नहीं हो. प्रधानमंत्री जन धन योजना very famous scheme तुम जानते हो. सुरक्षा बंधन scheme, अटल पेंशन योजना, maybe सुरक्षा बंधन scheme सुनी होती हो, but प्रधानमंत्री जन धन योजना, अटल पेंशन योजना, हृदय scheme भी सुनी थी बो. So hृदय scheme is for heritage city development time. That is not a financial inclusion scheme. So answer is Hriday. So let's learn about all the schemes mentioned here. Hriday scheme called National Heritage City Development and Augmentation Yojana. So Hriday scheme कौन है? National Heritage City Development and Augmentation Yojana. Launch की करतला Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs महुआ जोड़ा भी कोहा होची on 21st January 2015. Now this scheme was introduced to preserve and revitalize the rich cultural heritage of the country. So basically purpose कौन था? Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs जो launch करता है Hriday scheme to preserve and revitalize the rich cultural heritage of the country. Now Hriday scheme aims in the conservation of heritage, urban planning, and in increasing the economic growth of the heritage cities. The National Heritage City Development and Augmentation Yojana. तो ये full form कौन है? National Heritage City Development and Augmentation Yojana. Hriday Heritage City Development D and Augmentation Yojana emphasize on the accessibility, security, safety, livelihood, cleanliness, and faster service delivery in the heritage cities. तो आम जो ओडिशा रो जगन्नाथ पुरी also हृदय scheme under आस्तुला. So basically सेठी करे जेमति accessibility माने rail links हला transportation, rail, road, flights, then security should be there, then safety should be there for the tourists, livelihood, cleanliness should be there. So Odisha government भी गोटे like पूरी पाई गोटे योजना करथला प्रसाद scheme. Okay, so now see. Okay, Prasad. Odisha thila hala award scheme. Okay, Prasad is for by the your central government. Okay, jo Odisha government thila your award scheme. Now the Ministry of Tourism launched the Prasad scheme that aims at integrated development of pilgrimage destinations in prioritized, planned, and sustainable manner in order to provide a complete religious tourism experience. Okay, so तुम देखो हृदय scheme को launch किया महुआ and Ministry of Prasad scheme की launch किया Ministry of Tourism. The focus of pilgrimage rejuvenation. So Prasad को full form कौन है? Pilgrimage rejuvenation and spirituality augmentation drive. Prasad. So pilgrimage rejuvenation and spirituality augmentation drive is on the development and beautification of the identified pilgrimage destinations under Hriday scheme. So Prasad is on the to Prasad full form भी मन रखो, Hriday full form भी मन रखो. Prasad है कौन? Pilgrimage rejuvenation and spirituality augmentation drive. So National Mission on Pilgrimage Rejuvenation and Spiritual Augmentation Drive was launched by which ministry? Ministry of Tourism. Remember this. Hriday को launch करला Ministry of your Mahua, Housing and Urban Affairs. Now जो Hriday scheme था से कौन ला merge है गला with the Prasad scheme. So जो PRA SAD थिला ता नाटा change है गला कौन? So basically Prasad भी launch है Ministry of Tourism 2014-15 रे. The name of the scheme was changed to from Prasad to PRASHAD. So heritage टा कोई नहीं आसले. So आगुर जो थिला pilgrimage rejuvenation and spiritual augmentation ये कौन है गला? Pilgrimage rejuvenation and spiritual heritage augmentation drive in October 2017. तो 2014 रे जो प्रसाद थिला ताको 2017 रे हम कौन कर दिलु प्रसाद PRASHAD. तो heritage वाला जो जिनसडा को हमें प्रसाद रे merge कर दिलु. So after the discontinuation of the Hriday scheme of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, the development of heritage destination was included in the Prasad scheme, changing it to Prasad. Okay, so coming to the question number 92. Sishu, Kishore, and Tarun are the schemes of under the co scheme under Sishu, Kishore, and Tarun. Very important question or both famous. So this is the Mudra Scheme, Micro Units Development and Reference Agency. It should be refinance, not reference. Refinance agency. So Mudra is Micro Units Development and Refinance Agency. So So Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, you can see here Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana. It was launched by the government in 2015. Oh, sorry. Yeah, 2015 launch करतले कोन your Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana. So it was केबे launch ହେଇଥିଲା 2015 रे for providing loans up to 10 lakh rupees to the non-corporate, non-farm, small and micro enterprises. Non-corporate, non-farm, small and micro enterprises. Funding provision for Mudra, which stands for Micro Invest Development and Refinance Agency, is a financial institution set up by the government. So Mudra full form मन रखियो. तो ता अंडर ही जो तीन प्रकार एक्चुअली लोन अछि शिशु किशोर एंड तरुण. शिशु मान न जे शिशु मान को दवा पाई नो दिया जिवो फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ योर ये माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस नॉन फार्म बेसिकली एटा एग्रीकल्चर पाई नो अन्य बेसिकली नॉन फार्म लिखा छै ना नॉन फार्म स्मॉल एंड माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस नॉन कॉर्पोरेट हवा दरकार. So it provides funding to non-corporate small business sector through various last mile financial institutions like banks, non-banking financial companies and microfinance institutions MFIs. तो तांको बेसिकली मुद्रा जो थी अछि ताको रिफाइनेंस करछि. दैट्स व्हाई तो कोन लिखा छै रिफाइनेंस एजेंसी का फुल फॉर्म का हियर माइक्रो इन्वेस्ट डेवलपमेंट एंड रिफाइनेंस एजेंसी. दुई तीनटा जिंस एठी मन रखियो. बेसिकली इटे हला नॉन फार्म सेक्टर को दिया होछि अप टू 10 लाख दिया होछि एंड बेसिकली ये डायरेक्टली दोनी का थ्रू दोछि रेहले रिफाइनेंस करछि जेंते नाबार्ड में पड़थिलो रूरल डेवलपमेंट एग्रीकल्चर पे दोथिला. सो दैट वाज नॉट गिविंग डायरेक्टली इट्स रिफाइनेंसिंग हला लाइक आरबीआई आल्सो रिफाइनेंसिंग द commercial banks like that. So Mudra doesn't lend directly to micro enterprises and individuals. Okay. So Mudra has created 3 products. जेटा मैं जोड़ा क्वेश्चन से पचारछि. So जेटा Mudra अंडर रे तीनटा प्रोडक्ट अछि शिशु किशोर एंड तरुण. Now शिशु माने छोटे छोटे जो अछि तमरो मार्केट इंस्टीट्यूशन को कवरिंग लोन्स अप टू 50,000 rupees. Kishore is covering loans up to above 50,000 rupees and up to 5 lakh. So below 50,000 is Shisu and 50,000 to 5 lakh is Kishore and 5 lakh to 10 lakh is Tarun. So ये तीनटा वाला scheme अछि under the Mudra जो तमरो योजना अनुसार. Now loans under this scheme are collateral free loans. So very important for the small business. So basically business जतले लोन आसु बैंक रे कोन हम गोटे collateral दवा पड़े like गिरवी जो रखने ना गिरवी रखिया पड़े बंधा ओडिसा कोन बंधा रखिया your जमी कागज or something like that गहना. So basically Mudra रे specialized कोन तुमको किछि collateral रखिया पड़ेनी. That's why this was a huge यार बहुत सक्सेस हितला. बाकी किंतु किछि बैंक्स एंड अदर इकोनॉमिस्ट दे आर आर्ग्यूइंग माने से माने वन डे कि बेसिकली फेलियर हे पारे. बट बेसिकली यू कैन सी इन इंडिया जनरली जो छोटे छोटे लोन ने से माने रिपेमेंट कर देली बाकी बड़ बड़ लोन से माने होती लाइक विजय माल्या एंड ऑल नीरव मोदी. सो से माने भागी पळोसन. सो दे विल नॉट रन अवे फ्रॉम द कंट्री. ओके. नाउ अचीवमेंट्स. Loans have been given to disadvantaged sections of society such as women entrepreneurs, SC, ST and OBC borrowers, minority community borrowers, etc. The focus has been on new entrepreneurs. As per a survey conducted by the Ministry of Labour and Employment, Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana helped in generation of 1.12 crore net additional employment from 2015 to 2018. Launched in 2015. So out of the 1.12 crore businesses employment, sorry, not businesses employment, estimated increase in employment women accounted for 69. That is 62%. 69 lakh जो अछि. So 62% है ला women इतने अच्छे. Okay. Coming to question number 93. Which of the following indicators is not used to calculate human development index? आमे गोटे पढ़थिलो गोटे पचारथिला से your global hunger index जोटा कि wealth hunger life and concern worldwide last video रे हम डिस्कस करथिलु. So now it is asking human development index को किए बेसिकली तार कोन इंडिकेटर्स हला पचारछि किए रिलीज कर पचारनि इंडिकेटर्स पचारछि. So we should know about indicators as well. Now it is option देखला सेट्रो social inequality is not used for calculating human development index. Now which things are calculated then? Human development index which combines indicators of life expectancy, education or access to knowledge and income or standard of living. So तीनटा जिंस you can see here life expectancy जोटा कि एटा थिला option and your education or access to knowledge, education access to knowledge, then your standard of living जो per capita income देछे. So these three things are these three are the indicators for SDI. So it captures the level and changes to the quality of life. The index is the making of 2 acclaimed economists from Pakistan and India. जहाँ को भी economy में Nobel Prize भी मिलची महबूब उल हक and Amartya Sen. I think they got the Nobel is in which year? Year मोते माने पड़नी. So you can write in the comment section महबूब उल हक and Amartya Sen को year रे Nobel Prize मिलता for economy. It was initially launched as an alternative measure to the GDP. So GDP growth में generally measurement करा जाए. So GDP रे basically हमारा overall economic कौन सी ताबिश जाना पड़े. But basically तुम्हारा सेटिकरी human development index केमती होची माने along with economy सेटिका education केमती अछि per capita income केमती अछि life expectancy अछि सेउडा जणा पड़ेनी this was given as an alternative. So as it stresses the centrality of human development in the growth process. The last 3 decades of India's HDI data indicate that India has raised its HDI scores at an annual average rate of near 1.42%. तो लास्ट 30 वर्ष देखिए हमर जो एसडीआई बहुत स्लो ग्रोथ रे इंक्रीज करछि जेंति कि हमर जीडीपी तो 6-7% इंक्रीज करछि 8% लाइक दैट बट हमर जो एचडीआई इंक्रीज करछि एट वेरी मिनिमम रेट 1.42% बिकॉज़ जोर तुम जीडीपी जो ग्रॉस डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्ट हैला सी डायरेक्टली तुमरो ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट को देखोनी ओके so therefore if India has to realize its aspiration of becoming a superpower it must invest to reduce the burden of social and economic disadvantage to vulnerable sections of its population. So it is very important for increasing the education and health. से पे तुम देखियो जो नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी 2020 हेल्थ जो तुम्हारा योर यू कैन से जो कोन प्रधानमंत्री बीजेपी कोन ना सॉरी योर जन आरोग्य योजना प्रधानमंत्री पीएमजे और योर पहाड़ कोचंती मतलब बहुत जो तुम्हारा बेसिकली 5 लाख जो इंश्योरेंस मिलछि फॉर हेल्थ कोन एटा कोन नाडा मन कोन ए रे कोन होछि प्रधानमंत्री जन आरोग्य योजना जे कहां डर आछे थोड़ा तुम्हें कमेंट्स में लिख दो ओके सो मत मन कोन एग्जैक्टली सो यू कैन सी हियर द डायमेंशंस जो क्वेश्चन तो पचातला हैला सो डायमेंशंस आर so question was actually indicator है dimension है तीनटा indicator है चारटा so dimension is long and healthy life and knowledge a decent standard of living so long and healthy life is your life expectancy at birth जो indicator knowledge is mean years of schooling expected years of schooling then your GNP per capita है GNP is gross national product per capita है PPP rate नहीं होची basically purchasing power parity रे not your GDP okay तो पीपीपी परचेजिंग पावर पैरिटी नहीं होची नॉट द परचेजिंग पावर पैरिटी माने कोन तमर बेसिकली सेम मनी रे तुमे गोटे कंट्री रे को सर्विस मिलची अने कंट्री रे सेही सेम मनी रे केते सर्विस मिलची बाकी तुमे जदी ताकू डॉलर जो नॉमिनल जीडीपी रे जे तुम देखियो बाकी एटा डिफरेंट ही जीवो ओके सो इंडिकेटर तुम कोन देखियो लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी रे बर्थ जोटा कि हेल्दी लाइफ रासुची द नॉलेज रे तुमर मीन ईयर ऑफ स्कूलिंग मीन ईयर केते वर्ष तुम स्कूलिंग हेची एंड एक्सपेक्टेड ईयर ऑफ स्कूलिंग बोथ डिसेंट स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग और जीएनपी पर कैपिटा इंडेक्स है यार देखिए ना हेल्थ इंडेक्स एजुकेशन इंडेक्स इनकम इंडेक्स तो ये तीनटा इंडिकेटर ए चारटा इंडिकेटर को की यार ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स के रिलीज करे यूएनडीपी यूनाइटेड नेशन डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम नाउ कमिंग टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 94 so question is asked which of the following committees recommended a poverty line based on nutritional requirement exclusively तो exclusively basically nutritional requirement को नहीं की के कमिटी ओ इट मो लिखिनी आंसर so here answer actually रंगराजन नो तेंदुलकर नो it was Lakdawala committee okay so answer should be A here okay so you can see here poverty estimation केमती करा जाय a common method used to estimate poverty in India a common method used to estimate poverty in India is based on the income or consumption levels and if the income or consumption falls below a given minimum level then the household is said to be below poverty line so basically income हिसाब रे and consumption हिसाब रे दुईटा भितर जोटा हेले गोटे हिसाब रे कोन करा जाय poverty calculation करा जाय इंडिया रे तो सही हिसाब जब से इनकम करनो तो कंजम्पशन करनो तो ताको बीपीएल कह जियो बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन तो पॉवर्टी लाइन कैलकुलेशन पॉवर्टी एस्टिमेशन इन इंडिया इज नाउ कैरिड आउट बाय नीति आयोग टास्क फोर्स थ्रू द कैलकुलेशन ऑफ पॉवर्टी लाइन बेस्ड ऑन डेटा कैप्चर्ड बाय द नेशनल सैंपल सर्वे ऑफिस एनएसएसओ जोड़ा कहछि एबे तो ताको एनएसओ कहछि नेशनल स्टैटिस्टिक्स ऑफिस कहछि बेसिकली एटा मर्ज हेछि एनएसएसओ आउटे कोन थिला ओडे कोन ओडे बॉडी थिला सेटा दी जण मर्ज हेकि एनएसओ हेछि so एटा must be under also Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation तो तारो डाटा को नहीं कि 5 इयर्स थोड़ा डाटा कैलकुलेट करंती कलेक्ट करंती तो सेही डाटा को नहीं कि बेसिकली नीति आयोग कोन करछि पॉवर्टी लाइन कैलकुलेशन करछि जोडा कि आगु के करथला प्लानिंग कमिशन सो तुम जानथो नीति आयोग 1 जनवरी 2015 रे का को रिप्लेस कला इट्स प्लानिंग कमिशन को पॉलिसी थिंक टैंक ऑफ यूनियन गवर्नमेंट that replaced the planning commission which was earlier responsible for calculating the poverty line in India okay so right here your answer you can write here so will be A. Okay. Now, हम जो different committee चेतला before independence after independence ताकि छोड़ देखते हो consumption versus income level. Now, poverty line estimation in India is based on consumption expenditure. not on the income levels because of the following reasons. तो आमे दी प्रकार आमे करि परिया consumption expenditure income level हिसाब रे. तो basically it is saying that India रे mainly consumption expenditure हिसाब रे ही poverty line को calculate करा जाए. Why? Reasons are variation in income. Income of self-employed people like daily wage laborers etc. is highly variable both temporally and spatially. माने time हिसाब रे and year time हिसाब रे and माने धरो ए सीजन रे अलग इनकम थिबो नेक्स्ट सीजन अलग इनकम थिबो हला आउ हियरarchically माने space अलग अलग जगह रे भी different income थिबो. So basically it's saying variably like both temporally and spatially income is different, while consumption pattern are comparatively much stable. लेकिन consumption generally stable था, generally not always. Additional income, even in the case of regular wage earners, there are additional side incomes in many cases. जेमि कि तमरो cow milk थिबो किछि animals like animals से माने पालन करथिबे. So in that way the extra income can be there. Data collection in case of consumption based poverty line, samples based surveys use a reference period, that is 30 days, in which households are asked about their consumption of last 30 days and is taken as the representative of general consumption. So basically data collection is easy for consumption expenditure, whereas tracing the general pattern of income is not possible. The general pattern of income possible no trace kariba. Reference period is the duration or period during which the survey is conducted by NSSO workers in which they ask certain questions. Generally reference period 30 दिन को निया जाए. Now coming to pre-independence poverty estimation. So before independence of India, first दादा भाई नारोजी जानते हो the grand old man of India हला तांकर गोटे बहुत फेमस बुक थिला poverty and un-British rule in India. So से सतरे कहले कि basically drain of wealth होची in India, like British माने सब wealth India रो नेकी पळौछंती. So तांको सेतरे हिसाब रे poverty line थिला 16 rupees to 39 rupees per capita per year. तो वर्ष रे जदी जने 16 टू 35 टका भितर इनकम करछि तो ता ऊपर जदी इनकम करछि से poverty रे जाउनी बिलो poverty जाउछि ता तळे जेथियो हला. The poverty line proposed by him was based on the cost of subsistence or minimum basic diet, rice, flour, dal, mutton, vegetables, ghee, vegetable oil, salt वगैरह. Now National Planning Committee came to picture in 1938 जेतेबेले your Subhash Chandra Bose and Jawaharlal Nehru are leading the Congress front. So that time 1938 रे National Planning Committee इतला. So ताको हिसाब रे 15 टंका रु 20 टंका per capita per month you can see here was also based on minimum standard of living perspective in which nutritional requirements were implicit. So National Planning Committee was set up by Subhash Chandra Bose. You can see here Subhash Chandra Bose set up करथले National Planning Committee को. The chairman केतले Jawaharlal Nehru. So 1938 रे your Subhash Chandra Bose was the your INC chairman. INC जो meeting etla 1938 रे your Haripura and Tripuri sessions. So both that time Subhash Chandra Bose was the chairman of INC, president not chairman, but the National Planning Committee के chairman थे Jawaharlal Nehru. So for the purpose of drawing up an economic plan with the fundamental aim to ensure an adequate standard of living for the masses. Next comes the Bombay Plan 1944 after the World War II. The Bombay Plan proponents had suggested a poverty line of 75 rupees per capita per year. The Bombay Plan was a set of proposal of a small group of influential business leaders in Bombay for the development of the post-independent economy of India. Bombay Plan is 75 rupees per capita per year was the your poverty line. Coming to your post-independence poverty estimation. So Planning Commission Planning Commission was doing those job. So Planning Commission expert group 1962. Indo-China or India-China war. So Planning Commission expert group or working group constituted by the Planning Commission formulated the separate poverty lines for rural and urban areas. So tanko hisab 20 rupees per capita per year rural pain thila and 25 rupees per capita per year was there for urban areas. That is the poverty line 1962. Okay. Then comes the VM Dandekar and N. Rath Committee 1971 made the first systematic assessment of poverty in India based on the National Sample Survey data. So NSSO data हिसाब रे जो Dandekar and Rath Committee 1971 रे गोटे कोन assessment कले poverty रो. Unlike previous scholars who had considered subsistence living or basic minimum needs criteria as the measure of poverty line, Dandekar and Rath were of the view that poverty line must be derived from the expenditure that was adequate to provide 2250 calories per day in both rural and urban areas. So basically या पूर्व कौन करथले से माने subsistence living और basic minimum needs criteria को नोटले, but basically माने ये कौन कला दांडेकर रथ फर्स्ट टाइम पे से गोटे कैलकुलेट कले कि 2250 कैलोरी पर डे जदि जने नोथुवा कोन से हिसाब खाद्य नोथुवा खाली एटा फूड हिसाब रे गला फूड को माने मेनली बेसिक्स कले बिकॉज़ से फूड शॉर्टेज वाज द मेन थिंग फूड क्वालिटी सो एक्सपेंडिचर बेस्ड पॉवर्टी लाइन एस्टिमेशन expenditure based poverty line estimation generated a debate on minimum calorie consumption norms. Next come the alag committee 1979 तो कुछ अलग करके दिखाएंगे ये task force constituted by the planning commission under the chairmanship of YK alag constructed a poverty line for rural and urban areas on the basis of same nutritional requirements and related consumption expenditure. So nutritional requirement and related consumption expenditure basis रे ये करला. So poverty estimates for subsequent years were to be calculated by adjusting the price level for inflation. So inflation जो होता every year inflation हुए ताकू basis करके भी basically poverty line को से माने से करिया को कहले कि recommend कले अलग committee अलग was the chairperson हला. So ये भी nutritional requirement and consumption expenditure को नहीं की ही करते. So अलग was question टा कौन था हमरो basically poverty line on the national nutritional requirement exclusively only nutritional requirement ko nahi ki. So here alag committee will maybe the answer. Let's see Lucknow wala committee. So Lucknow wala committee task was chaired by DT Lucknow wala based on the assumption that the basket of goods and services used to calculate consumer price index industrial workers and consumer price index agricultural laborers. तो दी प्रकार जो सीपीआई कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स इंडस्ट्रियल वर्कर और एग्रीकल्चर लेबरर्स को नहीं की बेसिकली बेस्ड ऑन द अजम्पशन दैट द बास्केट ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज यूज्ड टू कैलकुलेट रिफ्लेक्ट द कंजम्पशन पैटर्न्स ऑफ द पुअर एंड मेड द फॉलोइंग सजेशंस. तो से कहले जो इंडस्ट्रियल वर्कर छथि एग्रीकल्चर लेबरर्स छथि से माने जो जहां भी गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज यूज करछथि कंजम्पशन करछथि ता हिसाब तारो जो सीपीआई कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स सेटा कैलकुलेट करके तुमे जानि परिया कि हमें कोन poverty line कोन. So consumption expenditure should be calculated based on calorie consumption as earlier. State specific poverty lines should be constructed. So consumption expenditure is saying consumption expenditure should be calculated based on the calorie consumption as earlier. State specific poverty lines should be constructed and these should be updated using the CPI industrial workers in urban areas. So urban areas by CPI industrial workers egula and the CPI agricultural laborers in rural areas. So tankara consumption pattern देखिकी state specific poverty line भी ही परियो. Then what else he said, discontinuing of scaling of poverty estimates based on national account statistics. So he said suggested for discontinuation of scaling of poverty estimates based on national account statistics. So Lucknow committee is saying कि तुम्हारा जो CPI अच्छी तार agriculture industrial worker मान कर नियो for urban area and CPI agricultural labor for मान कर नियो for rural area. Okay, so exclusively से कहला कि तुम्हारा कैलोरी यार क्या nutritional consumption. So both Lucknow wala committee and अलग committee can be answered here. Now let's see about Tendulkar committee जोड़ा कि एबे भी यूज होची 2009 रे तार आस्तिला Lucknow wala committee 1993 रे. So expert group constituted by the planning commission and chaired by Suresh Tendulkar, not Sachin Tendulkar, Suresh Tendulkar, was constituted to review methodology for poverty estimation to address the following shortcomings on the previous methods. Obsolete consumption pattern. So consumption patterns were linked to the 1973-74 poverty line baskets of goods and services, whereas there were significant changes in the consumption pattern of the poor since that time. So 1973-74 जो सकल थिला basket of goods and services ता हिसाब रे basically calculate करथिले बाकी change ही जाची. So consumption बड़ी बड़ी चलची अलग टाइप रो चलची changes होची. Then inflation adjustment, there were inflation adjustment. There were issues with the adjustment of prices for inflation, both spatially, that is space across regions, then temporally across time. Set up a problem. Health and education expenditure. Earlier poverty lines assumed that health and education would be provided by the state and formulated poverty lines accordingly. Okay. Next, coming to the uniform poverty line basket. What is uniform poverty line basket? Unlike Alag committee which relied on separate poverty line basket for rural and urban areas, Tendulkar committee computed new poverty lines for rural and urban areas of each state based on the uniform poverty line basket and found that all India poverty line was 446.68 rupees per capita per month in rural areas, 578.8 rupees per capita per month in urban areas. Basically या पूर्व जो थिला basically से माने कोन consumption हिसाब रे देखुथिले. So सो ये गोटे कौन कला कि तेंदुलकर कमिटी कहला कि जदि गोटे मासरे हला जदि जणे so per capita per month in rural area जदि जणे 446 rupees income करछि and तो केते होछि 446 by 30 जदि कर दबो तमे suppose दसो सुन सुन कटि सुन तो नहीं सपोज सुन अछि तो 3 हेले 3 के 3 3 12 so 12 टंका एमपी आछि 12 to 13 टंका हला so 13 rupees per day you can say then 578 जदि सेम 30 by divide कर दो सेबला केते आसीबो 3 के 3 27 27 19 20 टंका भीतर आसीबो ओके so that was calculated. Now Rangarajan Committee was the latest committee which came around 2014 so to review before 2014 actually to review international poverty estimation methods and indicate whether based on these particular method for empirical poverty estimates can be developed in India, to recommend how these estimates of poverty can be linked to eligibility and entitlements under the various schemes of Government of India. Method used for Rangarajan Committee was based on the independent large survey of households by तो गोटे इंडिपेंडेंट सर्वे हला के करथिला ताको सेंटर फॉर मॉनिटरिंग इंडियन इकोनॉमी ताको करथिला तो ताई से रंगराजन कमिटी हला इट हैज आल्सो यूज्ड डिफरेंट मेथोडोलॉजी वेयर इन अ हाउसहोल्ड इज कंसीडर्ड पुअर इफ इट इज अनेबल टू सेव now poverty threshold person spending below 47 rupees a day in cities and 32 rupees in villages be considered poor मतलब person spending what below 47 rupees a day in city मान को भितरे जदी जणे 47 टंका रु कम बेसिकली स्पेंड करूची जोटा कि बेसिकली योर तेंदुलकर कमिटी टू अधिका थिला below 47 rupees a day in cities and 32 rupees a day in villages can be considered poor. Based on this methodology, Rangarajan Committee estimated that the number of poor were 19% higher in rural areas, 41% more in urban areas, which what was estimated by Tendulkar Committee formula. Coming to question number 95, last question of the today's means this part 19. The fast sustainable development goal aims to eradicate extreme poverty. तो जो no poverty zero hunger fast है कौन no poverty to extreme poverty. So एटा को जो SDG goals 17 अछि fast है कौन no poverty. So how does the UN currently measures extreme poverty? So extreme poverty is what according to the World Bank defines a person who is extremely poor. Hello, extremely poor क्या? If she is living on less than 1.9 international dollars a day. So 1.9 US dollar a day जदि से ताटू कम इनकम करछि हला माने केते होबो कैलकुलेट जदि पर डॉलर 75 रुपीस तुम नोचो सो अराउंड 150 रुपीस पाखो के अछि 140 150 रुपीस तो ताटू जदि कम जणे इनकम करछि तो ताकू वर्ल्ड बैंक कहछि कि से पोर बाकी एशियन डेवलपमेंट कहछि एशियन डेवलपमेंट बैंक हला एशियन डेवलपमेंट रो हेडक्वार्टर कोडी मते कहबो एडीबी रो हेडक्वार्टर कोडी तो ता हिसाब रे जदि जणे 1.5 डॉलर रो कम इनकम करछि ताकू कहै जबो पोर ओके दैट इज द गिवन डेफिनेशन सो हियर आंसर इज it actually पुराना डाटा में भी ही पारे because बाकी सब तो होबो नहीं so go with answer number D people who live on less than 1.25 dollar दिछि okay $5 तो बहुत हाई होछि who claims to be living in poverty that is wrong who are unemployed and unable to access welfare benefits from the state that is also wrong okay so this is it let's stop here for today okay so please join this Telegram channel as I mentioned and you can put your comments and all in the Telegram channel as well as in the YouTube channel. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna, Jai Jagannath.